My Megastore routinely hits $100,000 per day in sales, and what I want to do in this video is go over some of the things that I've done to ensure that my store is in the best position to hit 100K per day. Now, there are some nuances with this that are out of our control, but for the most part, my store is completely optimized to be able to hit 100,000 per day. Now, to set the groundwork for how my store is laid out so that we can understand how it works for me personally, because I am running a max level store with every single item in the game. Currently, I have clothing, sporting goods, and toys on the top floor. On the bottom floor, I have music, electronics, grocery, as well as bakery. So that's the baseline for me. If you have your store set up in different ways, lower or bottom is going to affect different things as well, which we'll go over. So we're going to go ahead and open up and get the store rolling while we are talking about this. The first thing we're going to talk about is going to be customer count. I talked about this a little bit more detailed in a previous video, but just to give you the basics. So the number of registers you have is going to increase the capacity you can have in the store. So basically that 101 number you see in the top left corner, that is increased by the number of registers. Things like shelf diversity, the number of licenses you have, as well as the size of your store are going to impact that left number, which is the customer volume. That number is going to fluctuate depending on how people check out and things like that, which is another thing. But primarily shelf diversity is going to make that number go up more, because I'll explain it in a minute in the next section. Customers occupy a shelf. The more shelves you have available, the more customers that can spawn in. Now, I showed this live in action in the playthrough that I'm doing on the channel, which is a fresh store, because I had my toys set up on one rack, spread out to 3 racks, and then my number started to increase. The last thing is going to be vending outside versus inside. So vending is going to be much more efficient outside. Now, I showcased this live in my customer count video. The numbers are dramatically different. You're losing upwards of 30 to 40% of vending customers based on location in your store. So if they're right here on this wall, for example, like I had them for a long time, it's not going to be as impactful as if you have vending upstairs or in the back of the store or something like that. So vending being outside is going to give you the highest customer count, because basically vending has their own customer count. It's not notated in the customer counter in the top left corner. So we don't really know the exact number. I think it's like 103 is the maximum, is what I can maybe guess, but I don't have any firm data on that because, again, it's not impacted in that number. So basically, keep your vending machines outside because it's going to give you the highest customer count. So one final question you may be asking is, how many self-checkouts exactly does it take to hit that 101 number? So for self-checkouts, they count as 4 total customer capacity increase. So basically it's going to take 26 to be able to hit that. It's technically 104 when you have 26, but you'll hit 101. So the main registers right here count as 7. So whatever combination of those you want to do to be able to hit that. And you may notice that I have way more than 26. I think I'm up to like 40 something registers around the store, self-checkouts around the store. And it's for good reason, which we'll talk about in just a moment. So we understand how to get more customers into the store, but the biggest thing we need to understand, which is the bulk of this video, is exactly how to make customers more efficient when shopping our store. Now, there's a number of different things that go into this, but the basics are this. So when a customer spawns into the game, basically they spawn in with a list of 1 to 10 items. This can be 5, this can be 6, this can be 10. It doesn't really matter, but they have a list of items that they're coming to shop for. Now, depending on where these items are in your store is going to determine how efficient they are at shopping the store. So basically, if you are using multiple floors, they're going to need to traverse to multiple floors in whatever order they see fit based on your shelf layouts and things like that to be able to get these items. So already, people with single floor methods, meaning you've only decided to flesh out the first floor with all your departments, are going to see a much more efficient customer base because they're not having to go up the escalators and back down the escalators and all sorts of things. So if you're going for the single floor method, you're already going to have a massive increase in terms of customer count and overall sales. Now, if you're somebody like me that likes to fully maximize both floors and kind of flesh into the idea of a mega store a little bit more, then you're going to see a little bit of a lower overall customer count as a whole because they can't be as efficient having to go up the escalators and things like that. But in general, you can still see some really strong success, with examples being, like I said, I hit over 100K quite consistently with this method. So that's one thing to kind of understand with efficiency first. So the customers spawn in and they're looking for their 1 to 10 items. And the first thing they're going to do is latch onto a shelf. So again, shelf diversity is going to be a big thing. Department layouts are going to be a big thing, which we're going to talk about. But let's just say they're looking for these guitars, right? So they come in, they isolate that this is the rack where the guitar is. So they're going to latch on and occupy the shelf. While they're occupying the shelf, no other customer can occupy this shelf, which means that you're going to need more shelves of items to be able to satisfy multiple customers at once. So if there are 2 or more customers looking for this guitar, having 2 or more shelves is going to be better, because basically if both customers have that guitar at the top of the list, they can both occupy multiple shelves as opposed to just the one shelf, if that makes sense. So grocery is going to be one of the more dense departments when it comes to this conversation, because there are a lot of items and not really too many shelves to think about. So one of the big things to understand here early is the types of shelves available and which shelves are the ones you should be going for. So basically with grocery, you have things called wide shelves and small shelves. You want to go with the smallest shelves possible. The reason being is because if a customer comes in and latches onto a wide shelf, and let's just say there's 10 different items on it, that's 10 different items being occupied by one customer, which decreases overall efficiency. However, if you have a small shelf with four items on it, and you have multiple items or multiple facings of each of the items on these small shelves, then multiple customers can shop that shelf. So for example, if we come over here to my grocery department, you can see that instead of going up and down, I went side to side, and you can see all of my current items are on these small shelves. So if they're going for green peas, one customer can occupy this shelf and one customer can occupy this shelf, increasing overall efficiency. This is a massive problem with the cooler items. So one issue that I was having with cooler items is I felt like they weren't selling well because of the way people shop grocery, but it was the way I had it laid out. So I went to one of these single coolers as opposed to having the wide coolers of each item. So right now I have pudding, yogurt, and so on and so forth. You can go down the line here, and it has definitely increased my overall volume of selling for these said items. It just makes a big difference. So if you do that with grocery, it's going to make a massive difference to your overall flow of how people shop grocery and how efficient they are. Now you get in the same conversations with things like the freezers. I have one item per freezer, which makes it much easier. So that way 3 items are not getting occupied when a customer comes and shops it. Same thing with the produce rack. So the produce racks are a little bit more difficult because we are limited on those. But basically you want to go with the smallest produce fixtures you can. So if you want to go with these types of fixtures that are a little bit more robust in terms of what they can do with the mists and stuff like that, go with the small one because it's going to make it much better, because only up to 6 items are occupied as opposed to this one, which is what, like 1 or 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. So 10 total items that are occupied here. Now, if you want to really maximize the efficiency of shopping the produce and increase your sales, definitely go with the wooden produce ones, because they're going to be only 4 items that could be occupied on each one of these shelves, depending on how you lay it out, which again, this is how I have mine laid out, which is just 2 items. So in order to increase efficiency in grocery, you definitely want to go with the small shelves, because that means that more customers can shop said items, making efficiency better. Now, as you travel through the rest of the store, it becomes a little bit more difficult, because things like seafood, right? The fixtures are so large and there's so many items that it doesn't make much sense unless you want to have a freaking massive seafood department to do this. But you can do it with things like lobsters, right? So you can have 4 lobster tanks or more than that if you'd like, and that's going to get people 4 shelves to be able to lock onto. Now, the rest of your seafood department, I laid it out about like this. It felt like the best way to do it. But this is really going to be a loss leader in that category in terms of efficiency. You're just gonna have to do the best you can. Again, if you want a massive seafood department, maybe you can go to just 1, 2, 3, 4 items in a seafood case. But really, I didn't want to allocate that much space to seafood at this current time. But you can go through every other department and nitpick this to death, right? So for example, with the electronics department, one thing I could do to make this more efficient for my customers is, rather than having one laptop on one shelf here, what I could do is have them split down the middle. So I can basically, instead of having it side to side, I can do it vertically. So this laptop could be on both tables like this, and then like this. So go through your departments and really maximize your overall efficiency. So giving people more opportunities to latch onto more shelves and get through those things as quickly as possible. So if you don't understand anything from this video, that's the basic thing you need to understand, is how customers interact with the shelves. Now, the last thing to kind of understand about customer efficiency is going to be this. So self-checkout placement is super important. So a lot of you, and me included, may have isolated one area for your checkouts, right? It seems like it was the most efficient. They just check out here, whatever. That seems like the best way to set up your registers. But no, it's actually better to set up registers throughout the entire store. So I have my small cluster up here, but I've set up registers all over the store near department. So I've got some down there near electronics. I've got some down here along this little wall right here. I have some over here in the produce area. And of course I have some upstairs. The reason being is because of this. So when customers are going through their list, right? And it's not always going to work, but I would say it works at least half the time. So basically when they're done with their item, so for example, let's just say they buy their last item in grocery, the likelihood of them coming over here and occupying this register is going to be very, very high. So basically they'll buy like these pineapples, for example, like I think this lady bought these pineapples, and then they'll finish up over here as opposed to wandering to the front or upstairs or wherever your registers may be. And it gives them the highest chance of being as efficient as possible with their shopping. So if somebody comes over here to buy seafood, they can check out here, electronics, or the music department, they can check out here or here. And then, of course, like I mentioned before, if they are shopping upstairs, which is a big notorious problem, they have a high likelihood of occupying these registers upstairs. So that's why I have more registers than the recommended, because of the fact that, okay, if I have more registers up here, yes, there may be some occasions where people will buy things down here, and because they for whatever reason want to come up here and check out, they'll do it. But for the most part, they will check out near to the nearest register that's available. And that's one thing that I've definitely noticed. So you want to spread out registers throughout the store. It makes things so much more efficient for your customers. And I promise you will see a dramatic increase in customer count and sales because you did that. Two other things we're going to talk about is going to be pricing and restocker efficiency. So talk about pricing really simply here. So basically with pricing, 39% above market value is going to be where you want to be, your entire store. Don't skimp on this. It's going to make a big difference because it's going to give you the highest profit per item and also eliminate the customers complaining in your store. So if you didn't know this, basically if you have things that are too expensive, customers will complain and that will deduct one item from their list that they were going to buy. So if they come in looking for one item, this means they'll just leave. If they come in looking for two items, that means now they're only getting one item and so on and so forth. So that's the main reason why you don't want customers complaining. In some of the early stages of the game, it doesn't really matter too much, but definitely as your store expands, you want to try to limit the amount of customers complaining because you want them to buy their full list. So that's really the main reason why you want 39%, gives you the most sales opportunity and eliminates customers complaining. So restocker efficiency is going to be another really big thing in this game to increase your overall profits in the store. So you got to be organized. Having your layout, having your warehouse organized by category is going to be massive. So I have mine laid out in terms of grocery and produce and bakery all here. And then also have more grocery here. My vending's in the front here. Electronics are out in the front here. Music is here. Seafood is here. Sporting is here. Clothing is here. And toys are going to be here in the end. So the reason being is because what you want to do in the long run is you want to have employees or staff members assigned to departments, as many as you can. Now, you don't need a ton of people assigned to every department, but it makes a big difference in terms of their overall efficiency. And if you have it laid out by category, they're just going to be able to go back to those racks and kind of isolate those areas. Because again, in one of the more recent updates, if you come here to the staff page, you will see this return to source rack. So what the employees are going to do now is they're going to get their items, fill up the display. They have extra back stock. They're going to return to the source rack, meaning the pallets and where they were located in the warehouse, put them back. And then if they're assigned to a department, they're going to gather more items around that area for that department. So currently in my current iteration of this, I'll just go through it very, very briefly because I don't want to waste a lot of time here. Basically, my restockers are set up where I have 6 total restockers in the morning, for example. We got 1 vending, 2 music, and the rest set to everything. Makes it much more efficient for the morning. But the night crew is where kind of the more detailed stuff comes. So I always have 1 person on vending. I have 3 people on music right now, 1 person on grocery, 1 person on electronics, 1 person on seafood. I have 2 people assigned to toys and candy, 3 people on clothing, 2 people on sports, and the rest set to everything. This has made things very efficient for my stockers because I have staff members assigned to specific departments to keep those full, and then I have others that just bounce around all over the place. They're technically more inefficient, but in the grand scheme of things, if you have specific people assigned, they're going to keep it mostly full, and the others are just going to kind of bounce around and help wherever. So that's really the big thing about it, is you want to make your stockers as efficient as possible, because out of stocks are going to kill your sales. This also goes to your unloaders. So if you are ordering, you want to make sure your unloaders are being as efficient as possible. So for example, this bay is primarily for this side of the warehouse for the most part. Then this bay is for this middle section of the warehouse. This bay right here is for this middle section of the warehouse as well. And then lastly, bay 4 is for this section of the warehouse. The more organized you are with your actual allocation of pallets, the more efficient your unloaders are going to be. It's not always going to be perfect, but for example, let's just say you need to order a little bit of everything for here and here. Picking one of these middle bays is going to be much more efficient for your unloaders than picking, for example, this one for them to need to travel all the way over here. So again, organization is going to be key for your overall staff to be as efficient as possible and keep things stocked up. And you're never going to have out of stock issues in the long run if you do those exact things. I ended up running a couple of days while recording this video. I'll showcase some of the numbers from that, but one of the days got corrupted. It didn't show me any stats. It was very odd, but let's just see what the end of this day is, because I did another day just to kind of see what's going on. So 98,000. So again, you're not going to always hit 100,000, but you're going to be very close. But I've hit upwards of maybe mid 90s and 110,000 extremely consistently. And my customer count is always around 500 based on the efficiencies I've talked about in the video. So there's a lot of nuances to it as well that the dev is working on. He has identified some things to us. And again, I talked about this in the customer count video, that he's looking at making pools of customers for every department rather than having the customers spawn in and have items on a list to be able to go to. So I think when that happens, the customer counts are going to increase as a whole, because he said he's going to make the number larger based on the pool. And I think having having more departments and things like that with your store is going to make things better. So overall, there are some changes coming, but at this current time, the way it works is that it's going to be up and down in terms of sales. So, but the things I've talked about in this video are going to help give you the best chance to have the highest amount of sales per day possible in your store. And again, my sales have been anywhere between 95-ish to about 110K per day. It just kind of ebbs and flows, but I hit over 100K at least 75 to 80% of the time. And again, sometimes I end up going just a little bit under. So anyways, I hope this video helped you. And if it did, make sure you like, subscribe for more content similar to this. But anyways, I'll see you in the next video.